pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. A lot of good stuff to go around. What do we got in the audience?
So online we have Julie, Deb, John, Tim Rice, and Jennifer Sullivan. And in person tonight, for everybody who's online, we have Harley, we have Keith and Marley, and Sally, and David Ricard Jr., and myself, Kristen, and Jessica, Rich, Mike, and Bob, and Peg TV. That's the crew. So addition or deletion of agenda items. So Sally has requested to be on the agenda this evening under pre-requested after David Ricard. There is, under the health officer's report, I forgot to put it on the memo, but we're talking about mask mandates tonight, and Jennifer's prepared to talk about that. And then new business, the Cannabis Control Commission has received a new application. And I don't think there are any deletions. And then the minutes are from...
And the agenda is set?
Oh yeah, those were all the additions.
Yeah, nothing.
And I don't think we need to remove anything. And then the minutes...
Approval of minutes.
August 23rd.
I'll move that we approve those minutes.
I'll second that.
Any more discussion? All in favor? John?
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
Bob? Yes. Carried. David Ricard.
So I actually put up a big packet for every 20. I don't intend to go through that whole thing because more as I talked to Jessica, there were a lot of questions. So the packet has a lot of data and stuff about air purification, stuff like that, testing. So really, what I'd like to do is just answer any questions that the board has about the systems. And then, we can direct you to certain parts in the packet that may directly affect that.
My question would be, how do your units compare to the Blue Air units? Because I know that Kristen has gotten one of those, right? And so we were discussing those units.
So ironically, the shell of our unit is made by Blue Air. Okay, it's a custom design for it. However, it's a Blue Air, like our old system, is a passive system. There's a big difference between HEPA filtration and Active Pure. So what Active Pure does is it actually physically goes out and creates molecules inside the room that actively disable bacteria, viruses, mold, mildew. And as you can see, if you flip through the packet, you'll actually see the test results specifically to COVID, and along with many other results. And then you'll see just after the packet, there's this page that actually shows the new testing. They retested COVID, and it actually Active Pure, without ever coming through the machine, gets rid of it in less than 60 seconds at a 99.9% rate. And to report back to like what Blue Air would do, would be air changes, okay, and HEPA filtration. So if you go to this page that looks like this, that is actually directly from the CDC's websites, and it talks about air changes and how to get rid of particulates in the air. So to get rid of 99.9% of airborne particulates, bacteria, viruses, dust, mold, stuff like that in the air, you would have to change the air 50 times in an area, and it would still take 8 minutes to do it. With that, if you look down below in the bold, it says value applied to an empty room, which means no one's in the room shedding. So once you put people into the room, those numbers drastically change. Versus Active Pure, even with people in the environment, reduces it at 99.9% in less than a minute. So it's equivalent to about 60 air changes.
So yeah, for comparison, the Blue Air filtration devices that I was looking at online, you can get one that would do this size of room for about $700 or $800. Right now, they're on sale, but they do a 4.8 air changes per hour. So you can see where that is on this list here. They do 4.8, and they do use the HEPA filters.
How do the two compare as far as price?
I mean,
So,
what were your large room units?
so our large units are quoted for you for 1,800. However, that has multiple layers of filtration. So Blue Air is HEPA, ours is negative ionization, HEPA, charcoal, so it has all that, and then it adds the Active Pure. And the problem with just the HEPA filtration, and that's why the CDC put this out, is what they've seen, is that the air filtration by itself, when you're dealing with viral loads and bacterial loads, is too slow. So in other words, if you have an air exchange, let's say you have the machine sitting there, and someone in the back room coughs, right, so they're shedding. By the time it can get to that filter, it's now affected everything around its way. And I believe in this packet right here, it talks about how fast it spreads a virus. So maybe I cut that page out.
While you're looking for it, I'll just mention the other question that had come up when we were looking at the quote.
Yep.
I forget which of you mentioned it, but there was the idea that we already have existing ductwork for our HVAC. Can we put filters in that?
So you can, and that's what the initial recommendation was, right? But what they found is the problem with that is a filter restricts your airflow, okay? And the system only is going to run when it's running, right? So it's only going to work when it's running. So if you put a filter in, or let's say even UV into your ductwork, for UV it has to slow the air down to the point of where it's really ineffective for UV to be as an air purification unit, as it not being exposed. Versus if it's running through the air purification system and it's your HVAC, right, is at that point, if that HVAC system, that heating system's not on, it cannot filter. So at that point, you do a bypass system is what they call it, and we have those. And they get installed outside, the bypass the furnace, so it comes off before and then back on after. But at that rate, only about 20% of the air ever gets filtered. And again, it has to go, if someone's in the back of the room coughs, it has to travel through wherever your intake is, affecting everything along the way, versus the Active Pure goes out and actively finds it and gets rid of it. So if someone coughs in the back of the room, it's there to get rid of it. Think of it like, the most layman way to put it is like a bubble machine always running, right? So it's putting out these bubbles and stuff. And each one's looking for a bacteria, mold. It's just trying to resort itself back to a water molecule. So it converts water molecules into hydrogen peroxide, hydroxyls, and hydroxyl radicals and oxidizers. And that's what's going out doing the work. The other side of the machines, like the HEPA filtration, is all about the air particulates, stuff like that, and that's just added bonus to it. And then I guess the only sheet I have in here about this that compares it directly with HEPA filters is right there.
That's the questions that I could remember from last time. I don't know what else anybody might have.
So what is there for maintenance involved in these filters?
Just like with any other HEPA filter, it has to be changed. How often is really up to every environment. So anyone that's used to a set time is wrong. It's typically between 6 and 12 months. And then the cells themselves should be changed every year. And what the cell consists of is a treated cell around it, and it has a UV bulb that works as the catalyst to cause the reaction. So as the air passes through the machine, it converts those molecules into the hydrogen peroxide and whatnot. And if you see the last page, I believe, there's one here that talks about the different places it is, trusted leaders it says.
So where's the hydrogen peroxide come from?
The water molecule. So what it does, the original technology, ironically, was developed with NASA to grow potatoes on the International Space Station. And then they realized that
Converting a water molecule into hydrogen peroxide?
hydrogen peroxide, hydroxyl, radical hydrogen, and oxidizers. If you look at...
With no other chemicals?
No other chemicals. After this page here you're just looking at, it says Active Pure Technology, and it's actually the white sheets, which is all the scientific stuff. It tells you what each one of those radicals do.
Gets her back.
So the quote that was given too is when I came in to do the walkthrough, it was asked how they wanted it done. You know, are the rooms treated separately? Because realistically, when you're treating air purification, if there's a room that's closed off, you can't get through the door, right? You can't get through the wall. It has to be treated. So the quote was done to treat every room separately. If you're looking mainly at this room, you can start cutting things back. But that's why there's 4 units on there. It's not because of they won't cover it because the square footage, it's more than 2 units would more than do it if the doors were always open.
I'm thinking about how the space is used when Deb and Julie are here, and I know that Deb often has her door closed. So I feel like her office would probably, and it's fairly large, right? It would probably need a separate unit of some kind. But I'm not sure if Julie keeps her door shut. Usually it's open when I've seen it. So, and the other people are only here very infrequently. Yeah. So Jonas is not here very often, and the assessors. How often are the assessors here? Once a week,
I think.
Yeah, they're really only here once a week. So I'm not sure.
Their doors usually closed.
Their doors are usually closed. Yeah.
You could treat that room with a smaller unit if you're the HEPA filtration. If you're more worried about just the air, bacteria, the viruses, stuff like that, there's what you're worried about. You could treat that with a different unit that has the Active Pure as well on the main unit.
And each individual person with an office, you know, they make the decision about whether they want to invite the public. Well, Deb has to, right? But I mean, Jonas doesn't often see members of the public necessarily in his office. He might sometimes.
His office was, this is the corner store.
Yeah, the little one right here.
Yeah, so that was put just for the sake of if he's in there with the door shut by himself, that there's a little tiny unit that actually mounts right to the wall, and that's all that was put in there. But if that door is open when he's here, there's really, I mean, the unit that's out here would more than cover that area.
Yeah.
What's normal maintenance cost for that yearly maintenance?
Depends on, again, the environment, but between $360 and $420 with the filters themselves.
Okay.
And I believe the other option we talked about, which you mentioned Deb's room separately, is that when we were quoting it and looking at it, was that if we weren't going to do every office individually, was a main unit out here, somewhere over against that wall, and then Deb's was always.
So just to refresh me, the Aris Beyond would go out here and the 500 would go in Deb's office? or-
Well, if you're in Deb's, because of the, so everything when you're looking at, again, when you're looking at air purification, right? Is when we're talking about reduction of airborne contaminants, is we need to try to figure out how many people are in that space, what's the most people, right? So it changes the area that they cover. So a Beyond, for instance, in your home would cover up to 2,500 square feet. A Beyond in an office space, when we're talking multiple people, close quarters, we cut that down to 1,000 square feet. So, and that's no different than any other type of air purification. You have to take that into consideration, the amount of people feeding things into the ground. So Deb's was originally quoted with a Beyond and a Beyond for out here.
Okay.
The quote you have in front of you.
It's got 5 units.
Also quotes the other units. So the small unit was for the corner office.
Okay, I was just looking at quick, I didn't pay attention, there's 4 of the big units and 1 small one, okay.
But the way you were saying, we might do with 2 of the big units, one out here and one in Deb's
Correct.
office.
If those doors are open, right? So think of it works with like the law of gases. So what the law of gases is simply is if you're cooking popcorn at your house, you smell it just in your kitchen, you smell it everywhere, right? So you smell it all through the whole home. That's how the technology works, same process. So it's going to get to the other spaces as long as there's a way for the air to flow there. When the doors are shut, stuff like that, it's not really going to flow there effectively.
So any guarantees with this thing?
As far as what?
Nobody's gonna get sick?
No one's ever going to guarantee that.
That's what we're hoping for.
Yeah, look, and we have, if you flip through that packet, again, not spend a lot of time on it, but you can see this case studies like school-related dismissals, stuff like that. We put, on a personal basis, we put, I mean, Pulteney School has it, Wells schools have some, and the list, you have the list in front of you, but where I'm going with this is Muskogee Valley School District in northern Vermont. We put 210 units in there before the start of 2020. As of the fall of 2020, or 2019, the winter, I'm sorry, they almost closed the school due to the flu. Nothing to do with COVID, due to the flu, because the flu case they came through. This year, their dismissals were down, or 2020, even with COVID going on, there was no spreader events there. It was in every single one of their classrooms. They have the same unit that we're talking about here. And actually, the unit that would go here is the new version of it, so the cell's even more effective than the old version of it. But and you can see in that packet as you flip through it, is there's other cases of schools, different places that show sick days drastically reduced, stuff like that. I remember when we first put it in up there, Swanton Elementary School had 3 kids come and tested positive. And my office called me thinking it was the end of the world that COVID came into the school. And I said, well, we can't stop it coming in. The question is, does it spread? And there was no spreader inside the school. So that's what the technology does. Other than personal accounts and stuff like that, I know people have had COVID that have them running, and no one else in the house gets sick. No company's ever going to guarantee no one's going to get sick. They just greatly reduce.
I was just picking on you.
I know.
I guess my question would be, you've named off 22 things here that this has been tested against, and I assume it fared well against these different bacterias and flus and whatnot. What do we have for concerns in this building that generally only houses 2 to 5 people in this entire space on a weekly basis, and once every 2 weeks houses maybe 10 to 12 people?
I guess that's more of a question for your internal, right? If someone comes in with the flu, and COVID obviously is what drove everyone to this point, right? It kind of brought this all to the forefront. But there's things out there, the flu, the common cold, all these different viruses, bacteria, and stuff like that, pneumonia. So it's a matter of whether you want to create a workplace that's safer for your employees that's here when it comes down to a few people. When it comes down to the bigger crowds, as meetings comes back, and it's protection for yourself and the guests. But that's an internal question, right, whether that's something you want to present.
I just wondered, I mean, there's things named off, E. coli and everything else. I'm not too concerned about catching E. coli at a meeting or workplace, so a lot of these things are not something that
Those are just
is...
directly tested in the labs, so that's why they're listed there.
Right,
The biggest thing is, you know, if you look at RNA and DNA viruses and positive and negative gram bacteria, is the results all sort of the same, a 99.999% reduction. And one thing that's even more impressive than that is if you flip through, there's a triangle in your packet that talks about the pathogens, and that actually reduces even spores, which is the hardest to get rid of, at a 99.9% effective rate.
Do you have a question, Keith?
Not a question, just a comment on, in regards to Bob, his numbers. Right now it's critical because Julie's collecting taxes. There's a constant flow of individuals into that office and back out all day long. You know, that's a huge consideration if you're trying to control an environment.
That's a good point, very good point.
And she's going to do that at least twice a year and 4 times to wastewater, right?
Elections.
And then elections, and so it's not a constant, but it's still a steady flow.
And there's your actual, this is the page I was looking for before, it's page 6 in the packet, how quickly a virus can spread in the workplace. So they did a research, Arizona did a study, and they came in, they put tracer viruses. And what that is, basically they take just viruses they can track and put in places, and then they come back and they test it to see how far it's spread. So the tracer virus on common touch object, the virus can be detected on 40-60% of the workers, and a commonly touched object within 2 to 4 hours. So it had covered 40 to 60% of the space within 2 hours, 2 to 4 hours.
Kristen?
Jennifer has asked if we would like to hear a CDC update at this point in time. There's been some updated research. She messaged me. There's been some updated CDC recommendations that pertain to this, and so she's wondering if we want to hear about it now.
Does anybody have any more questions for Dave? We'll end the discussion with Dave then, and then Jennifer can add that.
Yeah, or if we want to talk about that during health officer time, or...
No, she could add that right now because it pertains to this, but if we don't have any questions for Dave, then we can... Anybody, we're all set with Dave, and we'll listen to this, and then we'll decide what we want, if we want to make a decision tonight, or if we want to do some more research, or... Okay, please go. Go ahead, Jennifer.
What I was hoping, I just wanted to give a little information as it pertains to this. As far as COVID goes, the CDC has relaxed the recommendations quite a bit because there is a fair amount of herd immunity between people who have been vaccinated and people who have had COVID. So right now the recommendations there are really none for social distancing or for mask wearing. So I can answer any more questions if you want more information, but I can speak later when you get to town health officer. But I just wanted to let you know that the virus, corona, right now, the number of cases is very low in Vermont. And based on that, there really are no recommendations for social distancing or masking. So in case you want to consider that for this particular topic.
And I think like we said before, forget COVID, because hopefully COVID will be gone. Or be at least a endemic instead of a pandemic is the goal. So, but the key is the other bacteria, the viruses, stuff like that this takes care of as well.
So what does anybody's comments regarding this proposal from Dave?
I know I'm not ready to make a decision on it at this point.
Okay.
Deb does have a hand raised.
John?
Deb.
Go ahead, John.
Sorry, Deb.
Oh, who?
Deb.
Okay, please go ahead, Deb.
Yeah, just to add to the conversation about the traffic into the building, the last couple of years have seen a huge uptick in real estate transactions and sales. So there are regularly people coming into the office and have been for quite some time through COVID after the initial lockdown to do research in the office. So that's people going into the vault, coming out of the vault, going to the copier, sitting in the office, doing some research. So, I mean, that's just when you were talking about the numbers of people that are in and out of the office. I know that Keith mentioned the elections, tax paying, wastewater. When Jonas has people come in to discuss zoning permits, he does sit in the main office, or where you guys all are. That's where he conducts his business. So that's just adding more information to the number of people that come into the office. At the moment, right now, I have 3 family members with COVID. So far, I'm negative, so it shouldn't affect me coming into the office yet, but I just wanted to update what I'm dealing with in my life with COVID cases. So anyway, that's it. Just wanted to add the numbers to the numbers. Thank you.
Thank you.
So when you asked for comment, my thought is we should get some sort of air filtration for the town hall. I think it would be important. I don't know yet whether we end up going with this one or a different one, but I think we should get something.
All right. Bob?
I'd like to get a lot more information on it before I make a decision.
Okay. John, what do you feel about it?
Well, by sitting here away from you guys is some indication. With myself undergoing treatment and other people in the community that are immunosuppressed, COVID, for example, can be a death bell for us. So we're very careful, and I agree that the office needs something. I would like to hear more research about how hospitals deal with it, how airplanes deal with it, and how with this technology of any company would provide the protection that we need.
I can answer the airplane question.
Okay.
So the airplanes will create between 60 and 80 air changes an hour inside the cabin, which is why there's been no documented cases of spreader accounts on the airplane either. So, I mean, if you're gonna take the air change route, then you really have to create that type of number to get to those results. That's the difference. So when you go back to, again, active pure versus blue air, right? You can have 100 air purifiers in here, portable air purifiers in here that are HEPA, that are going to equal what the active pure does by itself. That's the...
And as for airplanes, the current is that masks are recommended, but they're no longer required.
Okay. Well, David, you made a good presentation, and we appreciate all your effort that's gone into this. And this is gonna be a evolving process, and we'll keep you in the loop as we work through this. If we have any more questions, we know how to get a hold of you. Thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sally Akey.
Earlier this summer, it was brought to my attention that a section of Route 153, as it's going into West Pawlet, is suffering from some severe deterioration. And I was asked to find out if there was anything that the state could do, would do, what the relationship was between it being a town road, having a state highway number. I've talked to a number of people, and I do have some information to to share with you on some of the things that I found out. One of the topics, and I just received some information tonight, that one packet that I haven't had a chance to really look at yet, is when the change was made from a highway number to the state number 153. And there's a gentleman, his office is in Barry, he is the mapping section chief of the Vermont Agency of Transportation. And if you would like, I'll give you the email, a copy of the email that he sent me for your records. And he started out saying that Vermont 153 in Pawlet is referred to as a, quote, Class 2 state numbered route, end quote, which is classified as a Class 2 town highway under the authority of the Select Board, but carries a state highway number for wayfinding purposes. And then he includes a link. Essentially what he said is that he's reviewed the catalog of the town highways for Pawlet, and he did not see any mild changes. It's always been considered a town highway, and specifically it says a traveled town highway. On the 1958 map, it does not show any reference to a state numbered route. The 1961 map, and I think this is where the date of 1961 has come into question. On the 1961 map, it carries the 153 number, but the route is still listed as a traveled town highway and not a state highway. And they've got some other information there. Again, he was not able to see in any records in the mapping section that shows that the classification of this highway being anything other than town highway from the date of the earliest map of 1931. So I think that answers the question. They're saying, someone else made a comment about it, saying that it was probably given the number 153 for continuity, coming over from New York State and then carrying the same number. Also, because it is an important road, getting a state number has it show up on state maps. But it was never under any kind of maintenance agreement with the state. So you can have a copy of that for your records. As I said, a number of other people have been looking at this, and I'm not sure if you got the copy of an email sent on July 25th from Ann Gamble, who is the Chief Engineer, Highway Division, Vermont Agency of Transportation. The email was sent from Engineer Gamble to Butch Shaw, who is representative, and he is the vice chair of the Transportation Committee in the House of Representatives. So that's the why there was a reference to him. And I don't know, are you aware of this? What she had said has some possibilities. Anyway, I'll share. It appears, she says, that District 1 has offered the town a $100,000 town highway grant that can go toward the repair of Vermont 153. Regional Transportation Administrator Rob Valley seems to think that the town was looking for about $200,000 more to fully fund the repair. We do have another funding source for the town's consideration. It is called the State Infrastructure Bank, SIB, and Karen Songhurst is the agency, and then it has her contact information. So I don't know, but you can have a copy of that email as well. Again, doing conversations with a number of people at the state, Another possibility for funding was recommended. And what this would involve is having a bill drafted for the upcoming legislative session. It would be a standalone bill asking for state dollars to go toward the repair of Route 153. There is legal precedent for this. Generally, what I was told by legal counsel for the legislative body, what happens is the standalone bill would be sent to the Transportation Committee. Usually, I guess what happens is that if the bill gets some traction going, and I think we're pretty much assured that it would get some interest because, again, Representative Shaw is aware of the situation, was involved in looking into this as a possibility. He is currently the sitting vice chair of the Committee of Transportation in the House. So the vice chair is aware of it. He is running unopposed for re-election, so he will be in the legislature next year. So this bill is almost guaranteed. No guarantee, but I'm pretty sure that this will be taken up and be looked at. The precedent is usually, and I will give you at some point, I wasn't prepared for this, I'll get you a copy of some of the bill references where this has been, that have been presented before. So an individual bill gets presented to the committee. Usually what happens is that it is not passed as an individual bill, but it goes to appropriations. It becomes an appropriated item in the transportation bill, which then goes to the budget and gets added as part of that as the major budget for the state.
So Sally, I have a question.
Yeah.
So in a case like that, and we had talked about this the other day, is it gonna have to be engineered to get those monies? And also, do we have to have a solid number for them to submit?
I have some notes from the Ledge Council that
Okay.
I was working with on proposing, if we did this, what would it look like, what would happen? And it says, unless you or someone you're working with has the technical expertise to know the cost of the project, then that amount would probably not be something that would be included in the standalone bill, but would be included in any language that makes it into the T-bill. So I'm referring what she means is the town already does have an estimate of what the cost might be to repair it. I'm sure that the committee, the Transportation Committee of the House, would be calling for testimony. And at that point, they would be calling in and asking, and it would sort of be up to them, I think, if they decide, is that one estimate enough? Would they like an estimate from another firm to compare it to? It would kind of be up to the committee at that point. And then it gets, if it should get added to the state budget, it would be effective July 1st, 2023. So you're looking at putting the money, knowledge of the money out to that point. But should it be appropriated and then become part of the budget, there wouldn't be any obligation to the town. There would be money offered to you, and if you had decided at that point, maybe you do look into the infrastructure bank and say maybe the turnaround is faster, maybe they could do an approval sooner, and you decide to go that way. This money would be offered, but wouldn't be required that you were tied down to doing that.
So just to be clear, I mean, there's no negatives to applying for this or getting the ball rolling on this. I mean, if for some reason, something better comes along and down the road, we could just walk away from that if we chose to.
Yes.
Right. I mean, I can't think of what would be a better option than that, but we're not really tying ourselves down to anything. If we decided we had to go another direction.
That's right.
So what do we have to do to get that started?
Nothing. I have already contacted Ledge Council, and it will be assigned, they're deciding which Ledge Council the bill would be assigned to. I would be working with that individual and then possibly coming back to you if I'm asked questions that I can't answer, that I need to.
That's my contact information too.
Oh, okay.
Scratchy, but you can.
$200,000 to do
Yeah,
that
you
job
should
right.
start
And
to
it's always going to bother us if we don't.
And then I can,
Okay.
you know, help.
I don't see.
Should we reach out to that Karen Song about the,
Right, we have to shim it.
I would
Like we have in the
say,
past.
if Kristen is asking, I would recommend definitely that you.
Right, like we have in the past, just keep shimming it.
I just asked if we should reach out to this woman Karen Songhurst about the state infrastructure bank, if that's something that we should start to think about sooner than later.
Again, as long as you're not being obligated to do anything, I would think more information like that.
We could start the ball rolling.
Gather.
So you haven't already reached out, right, on this?
No,
So
I have
that's something
not, I
that
have not
could
reached
do.
out to that. What I have done is look at Ledge Council, would they be able to do a bill, what would it be? And if we, by submitting a drafting request this early, it would be, you know, fairly high on the list of being presented in order. It would be presented to the House and assigned to the Transportation Committee at the fairly early into the next session.
Keith, do you have any idea how that project was originally funded?
No,
Nothing we've ever,
no.
no stone we've ever turned over. Because in 1970,
Probably with the combined effort between the town and the slick quarries there, you know?
you know, they brought in a big construction company to do that project. So somebody ponied up a lot of money.
Oh, yeah. Well, it was part of the grant for the wastewater.
It was what?
Part of the grant for the wastewater.
Was fixing that road too?
To get the source main through there from the first pump station.
But that was still 10 years earlier before the wastewater
All right,
completed.
it still was, that's why it was done. So they wanted to have where they could dig, as opposed to solid bedrock. So it was loose fill put in there and then dug back through.
So what I would say at this point, it's certainly up to the town if you look at the state infrastructure bank. But as I said, as long as you're not signing anything for an obligation, at least gathering that kind of information, and then just go ahead with having the standalone bill introduced. And that way you'd be looking at a number of possible options of funding for the repair of that road. There was one other question, which was liability. Is it a town liability? Is it a state liability? Since I think it's pretty clear that the state, it was never a state-maintained road. They just gave it a number for convenience and for mapping and that kind of thing. So I think you'd probably have to talk to your town lawyer, your town insurer, to discover more information about what the liability level might be.
Now, are you referring to if the road collapses and somebody gets hurt at this point? Is that the
That was a
liability?
scenario that was presented, and if it were a state road,
Right.
But since it's never been a state road, that I think it's pretty clear that the state would not be in a position of liability. But what the liability would, to the town would be, as I said, you'd have to talk to the town lawyer or whoever does your insurance also to see if there's anything else. I know from the time that it first came to my attention, and I went and did take some pictures for myself, just some pictures of what it was looking like, and you had no warning signs out that there was a bump, something, and those have since been put up. Again, I don't know if that's enough to prevent the town from any liability issue or not. I would also say at some point, I noticed, and I think a couple other people have noticed as well, that the guardrail there seems unusually low. I don't know if that affects the liability issue or not.
So at this point right now, we could start this ball rolling without any obligation or anything like that, so. Does anybody have any compelling reasons why we shouldn't?
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah. John, how do you feel about this?
Well, I know that every legislator has 1 or 10 projects in their town that need attention. And I think this does get a one-topic bill does get attention and then will be folded in. I agree with that. And it doesn't hurt to highlight something, and it's a cumulative effort. It doesn't happen overnight, and it's in the perspective of 150 other reps who all have projects in their own town too, and how they survive.
I just thought one more compelling idea that I think would get this attention is that it is a major road that parents use to transport children to school. For the Rupert students coming up to the elementary school. And also, it's not like so many places around here, it's not like you can just go around the block and get another road and get another route. There's not really around the block here. So I think that would also give it a higher priority than some other projects. And at least I think it's worth the time to do that, and the time and the effort to at least explore that possibility.
All right then, so you'll keep us posted on how everything's going and if you need any information or anything like that?
Yes, I will.
Okay. Dolores?
I have a couple of questions. Like you probably remember when the road had sides.
Mm-hmm.
On either side it was like a bridge because those quarries were still being worked, and so as you crossed there were people working below, much has happened recently. I don't know when everything got taken down, but at this point not only is it caving in, but is there anything to keep you from just diving off into the pit? I'm thinking of two things that are very important to us as a community. And that's our children that go on buses over that. And during Irene, our house and anybody in what we call Spruce Gum was isolated. Coal Bridge went over, and the river went over in West Pawlet. The fire department saved our house by pumping out the basement. I think there were probably a lot of other places that were saved. Fortunately, there was no fire at that time. But when you look at the safety of the neighborhood that's known as Spruce Gum, there's not a lot of options for safety. And the fire department is a huge resource. If there's an accident, not just fires or whatever. So in looking at this, I think the state really should be looking at this with some responsibility, as, you know, the schools and so on, the communities are part of the state. So that's one direction. I think the other thing is, in keeping that road open, if you're having to, I mean, it's it's seriously caving in, and you have big equipment or a truck route, there's a lot goes on that road. And I'm thinking maybe if you can't fix it, that at least some barriers are put up on the side, you know, much as they had many years ago, that at least would keep people from driving off it. I mean, I think that, you know, we're if entering town on the left side, it seems that the town, you know, under Keith, has done a lot of filling in, so that that side is not as dangerous at this point. But on the side that is rising in Nelson, that's really, I just look at liability for the town, really. I mean, up the insurance perhaps. But another thing I want to say is, Sally, thank you so much for researching this. And I think that you and Keith have a conversation again, because he has so much knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you, Doris. Okay, does anybody else have any questions for Sally? Well, thank you very much, Sally, and we'll be in touch and interested in what you learn. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you.
Is there any announcements? Zoning administrator? Nothing from them? Planning commission?
No, we did that last time.
Okay. Road foreman's report. We have on that winter sand.
So we decided on the 3/4, and then we still have to decide on the sand, which this came from Pike. Harry had brought a sample of each, and this is the sand from SLC that we would mix with the larger stones so that would flow through the sanders better. So if you guys want to, just, you obviously know what it is, and I'm sure Robert does. So those are the two options. Price-wise, I mean, they're
Whose sand is that, Rich?
that's Pike over there, and I think it's Wallingford.
It's clear sand, that's why it's here. It's very clean.
Both products come from Pike?
That's SLC.
SLC's, okay. And this is
Wallingford crushed stone now.
Yeah.
And these are both called sand,
Yeah. This
even
is
though one of them is
really
obviously gravel.
So this is crushed rock.
Sorry, and I'm just a layman here.
Yeah, no.
We're all thinking.
But this is considered their winter sand, which is just for grit. But it's from fractured rock as opposed to this is actually sand.
Right,
like
well,
out of
we
the
were
bank.
talking about not wanting to put sand on, but the rock being better, right?
Yeah, I just wanted to, give you a
Yeah,
couple
I like
options.
seeing that, yeah, thanks.
So,
That gives you an idea, right? Contrast there, what we're talking about.
Yeah,
and this is clearly a better material to put on the road. Keith and the guys, they like to have some color. I think, right, it helps draw a little sunlight possibly, or some heat to the road.
Well, and the drivers can see it. The taxpayers can see something on the road. If you put just that like sand down there, you're not going to see it on the road. It's going to look like snow.
So they'll drive slower. They will hold that false sense of security.
They'll never drive slow. I figured that out.
they'll be happier come mud season if the road isn't so slick.
That fine stuff the SLC might flow right out of the sander like water. That's not good. It's pretty high application, right?
Yeah.
Being fractured, it may bind together all right. I don't know. A lot of guys do use that, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not in
Yeah,
the,
it's very popular. A lot of, especially guys like Gary,
Yeah.
have small sanders that don't take, they bind up and that stuff flows very well.
That sand right there looks really good. Not sand, this crushed material right there looks like, and the thing of it is, if you get a rain event or something like that, it takes a lot longer for that to cover, you know, just a minute or two when this is gone.
For sure.
We get more rain events in the winter now.
Yeah. I think it's much longer term product. And like you say, it's only gonna add to the road surface. So I'm in favor of that material right there. Definitely.
Sure, I think your example did great, Rich. Everybody can see the difference.
it's pretty significant
It is,
difference
it
there,
is,
huh?
yeah.
Looks like two totally different things.
Out there, but these are, I think, the best ones right now.
You know, and we still do have some of this at both town garages. So if we get this and we decide that for some oddball reason we don't like it this winter, we can go back to that next winter. But we do have some of this, we don't have any of this.
And we could put, in like this finer stuff, I know we like it on the blacktop better. Once in a while, we might need to put,
I would use that.
you'd still use this on the blacktop too?
You could mix that with some salt, couldn't you?
Yeah. In a nice situation, it would be very, very effective.
I don't think there's any reason for that anymore. How much do we
It's not
need?
cheaper anymore, Mike.
Throw it out.
What's that?
It's not cheaper anymore. You can buy the rock fines as cheap as you can buy the sand.
Right?
And
There's no
it
gravel
is-
pits anymore.
And it is better for the back roads. I mean, we're putting 100 and some loads on a winter. And of course, a lot of it does get plowed into the ditches, but it's good material.
How much do we need of this?
Sure.
Let's,
There's a way that I can do this
You want to show the folks?
for the viewers at home.
What are you doing, Vienna?
Showing the folks at home what they look like.
John, you see that?
400 yards of,
Yes, I do, thank you.
You're welcome.
100 yards,
This is the hot stuff,
yes.
not
Actually, we need
stuff.
Okay.
900 yards. And Keith could speak to that as well, on how many yards you think we ought to have at each.
Yeah, depends on how much other stone you have, but you're probably looking at 400 to 500 and Pawlet.
So what we've got so far,
Terry could get by with half that probably over there. He doesn't have the hills. You know what I mean? No Ricard Mountain, no Tadner, no Kelly Hill, no Wake Road, Big Hill. You got one big hill on Betts Bridge Road.
so last meeting, we decided we're gonna put 800 yards of 3/4 drainage in West Pawlet and 600 yards at 3/4.
You don't need 800 in West Pawlet.
Okay, we can change that as we
Never
go.
used 800 yards of anything over there.
Is it gonna be yards or tons?
Tons,
So it'll be a little bit less, but,
yeah.
and then 400 yards of sand in West Pawlet and 600 yards of sand in Pawlet.
That'd be good.
Because there still is some sand.
Yeah, and it's gonna be that. It'll be a little different. I don't know if you try to keep it separate and blend it, or whether you'll just mix it in the pile as you dump it.
Well, does it have any color to it? Is it tended to be a little dark or
Like that, no? That's
not
what
darker
The
than that?
3/4 exactly like this, just larger
Yeah.
stone.
it's just rock. They pull the dust out of the lime, and that's what they had left over.
I say we try it and
I'm definitely in favor of it.
Okay.
And that's just, that doesn't really need to be a motion, does it? It's just winter material, we just buy it.
You've already approved the budget with
Right.
winter materials in it, no?
We'll just work on exactly how much we think, you know, we wanted each.
And we'll work on that. That's not, we might put some up and decide we need more and we'll get it in December, you know?
You don't have to worry about it soaking up a whole bunch of water and freezing.
You know, the thing about that 3/4 drainage is if you get a mud hole in the spring too, you can dump a load of that right in
We
there.
did a lot of that.
Yeah.
Filled in rocks with the spinner on the sander behind the cab. You could drive right through a rock and seal it in and then wheel it in with your axle behind you, so.
It sounds like we got a good plan for that.
So that's SLC.
Yeah.
And that's at, if you wanna know the price, it's, $10.90 a ton.
I think you get a lot of volume per ton.
Yeah, with the SLC, that's much lighter material.
Lightweight, yeah.
Paving bids.
Yeah, so,
I printed out one updated one came through. You all have a copy of it.
We got a price from
From
Wilk to do
Wilk
the
Paving
shoulder
to
work,
the
but did
shoulder.
we get a price from Tom Fuller to do the shoulder work?
so Tom's prices includes the shoulder work or the shoulder machine, as well. You know, we get the material and supply the trucks. So comparing the two with the same tonnage, so it took the price that Tim gave us for the shoulders and the total tons that Tom gave us at 2276. And just so we can compare them equally, with the shoulder machine, there was $5,522.60 difference between the two. Wilk was the low bid. What I, can say is they're both, great companies that would come and do a great job for us, both of them.
Is Tim still on?
Yes.
Make sure you leave.
Tim, are you with us?
I just unmuted myself.
Nice. Hi.
Hi, Tim, I've got a question for you. This is Rich.
Yes.
What's your timeline looking like? So we've got to get the roadsides mowed and that one apron prepared, and there's a couple little projects to get done on that road before you come pave it.
Well, I spoke to Keith about that ahead of time. Realistically, we're looking at sometime in October at this point with our pending work and everything that's going on. But we don't want to push it out beyond that, obviously. But that was what we discussed.
Okay.
Well, it seems like that's the best deal, the Wilk deal with even adding the shoulder machine on is still a better deal than Tom Fuller's, so. Do we want to make a motion? Do we have that money available in our budget to?
Yes.
And we didn't qualify for any great paving grants this year.
Taking advantage of last year's grant, Mike. And we had a surplus last year, so this year's money will cover that paving, and it's nice to do an entire road. None of this tactile quilt like we've done in the past.
Right.
I'll make a motion that we accept Wilk's bid to pave Buttons Falls Road. According to the two prices that were submitted by Tim Rice.
Including the shoulder work.
Yep, including that.
Want me to put the price in the motion, total price? And if so, what is it?
So the price per ton is $86.40.
Well, is there a total price
Yes.
for,
There's a total project cost.
yeah, that,
So there's gonna be two. It's $193,536 for the paving, and then $1,350 for the shoulder machine.
so $193,536
Yep.
even, plus the $1,350 for shoulder.
Yes. And the shoulder bid includes the road widener with an operator and a sweeper with an operator. Traffic control material and trucking to be provided by the town.
Okay.
Okay. So that was made by Bob and seconded by Rich.
Yep. All those in favor? John?
John seems to have left the screen.
What's that?
John has left the
Has left?
box. John?
Hey, Jessica?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Carried.
John, are you good? I feel like John didn't see him slip away there.
On that, Tim.
So Tim, did you hear that?
I just
I'm having
messaged
a-
Sue to see where John was.
Okay.
I'm having a difficulty hearing you guys at times, in and out, but I'm trying to hang with you.
Okay, well, we have accepted your bid.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll talk.
We will be in touch with you.
Yep,
All right.
I'll be in touch. Thank you very much.
Oh, John's back. John, are you in favor of a motion that was made by Bob and seconded by Rich to accept the Wilk paving bid?
Yes.
Good.
Okay, carried. Thank you. Okay, the next, North Pawlet Road, Route 30 intersection seems to be having more than a regular amount of close calls. And, what's his name, Rob Fairley said that we could request a traffic study to kind of get the ball rolling to see what we can do.
So would you like me to,
So that basically
touch
it
with
would
Rob?
be just ask the state to perform a traffic study to see what, that's kind of the first leg of that whole process, I guess, from what I understood.
I have a question. So there's this flashing light now when you come there at night.
Yeah?
Did we put that up?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
right, that's, you guys got the road sign, the speed limit sign.
It was one of the speed signs.
Yeah.
Does it not flash
Well,
the speed?
I don't know if it flashed the speed, but it flashed lights when I drove by, and that was great.
Slow down.
Yeah.
Stop ahead.
may I?
Because I drive that way often.
If you're
So I
doing under
noticed the
70, you can
flashing
read it, Jessica.
It reminded me that the stop sign was there. It did its work.
Yes. Good. The two new radar speed signs came in.
Oh, excellent.
And so there was a sign that was put there on the North Pawlet Road that was programmed to be a little flashier and tell you to slow down and that there was a stop ahead. So in an effort to try to draw more attention to that intersection. So good. It's working.
It works.
Nice. Well, not for everybody, apparently, but for you.
My only concern is that part of the traffic study is counting cars. And the number of cars after Labor Day coming out that North Pawlet Road headed back to Connecticut, New Jersey, and Massachusetts is 1/10 of the amount that cut out that road 2 weeks ago during the
4th of July, right, yeah.
the hot summer weekends, because every car zipping out that road and running the stop sign at the end was headed back
We've seen that before.
Right, so I'm just saying that, you know, if they're doing a traffic study, they're gonna go, well, there's only 3 cars took that road, you know, all day. Well, yeah, a month ago, it would have been 300 cars zipped out that road.
Traffic on the Telsley Road, and there's just cut corn.
I guess the only thing we can do is to start the ball rolling and
Right, right.
Okay.
and go from there. So can you ask him to formally request from the select board a traffic study for that intersection? That would be great. Thank you. And the speed sign locations, well, we gotta get them mounted on movable signs and stuff, right?
So that's in the works. The one of them has already been programmed, and there was an idea thrown out at one point to have it kind of in reverse to what the other one was by Sheldon Store coming into town. The idea would be to have it right across from the Barn Restaurant, so it's coming into town from that direction. So that one's programmed and ready to go, and the mount has been made for it, so that just needs to be picked up by the road crew, and I've communicated with Dale about that. And then the second one, to keep it balanced, figuring to put it in West Pawlet, and I just don't have familiarity with where it might need it.
Never heard of road figure, man.
Oh, we could put so the cool thing about these signs is that you can put fun messages and symbols and stuff. So there's an option you can put, this is what's exciting in my world these days. But you can do, you know, like one of those traffic triangles with an exclamation point in it so that people know that there's danger coming up. So we can kind of use it as a mixed, you know.
Put it by the pump station there to warn people of the road.
Yeah.
For a while and see how it goes, yeah.
And then that'll encourage people to slow down and just be well, I don't know, maybe in a perfect world, be more mindful of their speed through there. So do we want to do that? We'll go ahead and just, I mean, they can be moved.
That's the good thing about them. We can pick them up and move them. They work pretty well.
Yeah, so we'll figure out what the speed limit is there, and we'll get that programmed, and then the guys can put those up this week.
For whatever reason, like 45 miles an hour, you can't program into them?
No, you can. They're just finicky.
There's different increments that are...
Yeah, you have to, but in that, because what's the speed limit right through there, like 30? What's the speed limit where the road's deteriorating?
35.
35. Yeah, so we can, that will work.
Right, but there's some that don't, I don't know why, don't seem to work, but, no, that'll work, that's a great idea.
Cool. And Jennifer just asked where there's currently a West Pawlet speed sign. It's on the North Pawlet Road.
Yeah. Okay, so is there anything else for the road foreman? Anything for you to offer?
Nothing I have.
Okay. We're all good?
We just,
I'm sorry.
I do have, we just spoke with Sally about the road repair, and it's obvious that nothing is gonna take place till next summer.
And after that, just to go through the legislature.
Right, and so we just can't leave the road like that. So what are our intentions moving forward? Are we gonna try to put some sort of a blacktop ramp in there we're not gonna fill the whole thing in?
By winter, we should do something there, yes.
Right.
But let's see where we're at between now and then. And
I just, you know, I mean, a $300,000 RV wrecks down there, that'll pick the $300,000 worth of blacktop fix. I can just see a catastrophe happening if we leave it for months and more. I mean, we wanted to leave it to make sure the state saw what it actually was like, but I think everybody's had a good chance to see what it looks like now, and it probably needs to be somewhat cobbed up, even if we filled it with SurePack right now.
What have we done? Put like a rubble coat down and then shim it with blacktop in the past, right? Or just, I mean, sometimes we've caught it quicker and just shimmed it, but...
probably pull that hump out of there and then put some kind of a shim in.
Right, because just putting rubble on the blacktop, it's gonna squirt out. Yeah, okay. So we'd have to dig that piece out, push it over the bank there to help the progress and go from there. Okay. And then just pull the the rails out to match the right height when we're done?
No, I think when they're done with the whole project, they'll have new guardrail.
But I mean, just to shim it, after you shim it, grade it, you can just pick the rails up a little bit so they're closer to where they need to be.
They'll stay, you're all right, yeah.
Yeah. I guess we gotta add that one on the list too. I'm busy. Okay. Assessor's report, errors and omissions.
Yes. So this came from Karen and Lisa. They're requesting approval.
Good night, thanks for coming in.
Bye. Good to see you. Requesting approval of the 2022 grand list change as shown. It has, you all got it to your email as well.
Omissions.
Oh, it's the one about the solar, the ones who came to grieve about their solar array, that they'd made an error in the, I'm pretty certain that's what it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
So basically, we just gotta make a motion to approve the errors and omission.
I'll make that motion that we approve of this.
Okay, John, are you familiar with this errors and omission?
Yes, I did talk to Karen last week, and what happened was that the adjustments that were made at the BCA meeting were entered in one document, but not in the other. And so that's the error occurred.
Okay. All in favor? John?
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Carried.
And then the other thing, which I'm just trying to print.
I have the points for the assessor.
Okay, go ahead.
First, Karen's schedule in the office has changed slightly in that she or Lisa will be there on Mondays and every other Wednesday. So check on the website or with her about when when's the other Wednesday, when she's going to be there. This is in relation to the other towns that she works for. And the second thing is that the maps going from GPS to PDF are now available as of the information from April 1st of this spring.
Okay. And everything else is going good, huh?
Apparently.
Good.
Yes.
Good, thanks for talking with them. Anybody got any questions?
This came from Lisa as well. It's her invoice. I don't know if Julie had included it, but it's her invoice for hours worked in the month of August.
Okay, so that's her monthly invoice for her services. Okay. Anybody you wanna look at that, or you're good? Okay. Okay. Town clerk's memo. Deb?
Oops. Yeah, I'm here. I didn't do a memo. I got busy today and actually forgot it was a Tuesday. Of course, we're heading into general election season, so things are happening on the Secretary of State's level all the way down to the town clerks in preparation for the mailing of the ballots that'll be taking place 45 days prior to the election. Research is ongoing. Had some researchers today come in. And other than that, I don't really have anything to add. Just also, I am wondering about the repair work to the porch, if we've gotten any word on the fellow. He did come and look things over. I ask only because I watched a fellow today who was using a cane, and he used the handicap ramp, and I was a little concerned with the hiccup from the ramp to the road. So anyway, unless anybody has any questions for me.
I'll try and reach out to Dave and see if he's got some opinion on what he thinks is the best course of action, whether to try and replace just a few or go through and replace it all and be once and done, so to speak.
Okay, yeah, I walked out with this fellow. I followed him out because he was a little wobbly, and I wanted to make sure that he made it all the way down the ramp and to the road and to his car. So then that just what reminded me that I hadn't heard anything about where we stood with the repair. So anyway, unless anybody has any questions for me, I think that's all I have.
Okay, well, thank you. Dolores?
I have a question for, in regard to the election, do you retain the paper ballots from the machines? Or do they become?
What election are you talking about?
So they become the property of the state of Vermont? They are retained someplace?
Dolores, I guess, are you talking about the 2020, this election coming up?
Yes, this election coming up.
Oh, they get mailed directly from the state. And then the towns are given a supply to send out to people who register after the mailing. And also for people who lose their ballots. We won't have 100% of the voter registration at the polling place. People can bring their ballots with them to vote on the ballots that they received in the mail. But there's the initial mailing will come from the state, whoever they've commissioned to do that.
I was more concerned in regard to the records of the votes, that after they are recorded in the Dominion machines?
The Dominion machine tabulate.
We still send a paper ballot through the machines. I don't know what you do with the absentee ballots, but those ballots, are they retained by the town and then handed into the state, or what's that process, please?
What happens to the completed ballots that get shot into the tabulator?
Okay, is that the question, Dolores?
Yes.
Okay. They go into the tabulator. It's the same as we've always done it. There's nothing different at all. The machine only tabulates, and it doesn't go, it's not online. It just tabulates the ballots, and then at the end of the day, we empty out the machine, we pull out the write-ins and account for all the write-ins, and then by statute, the ballots go into a sealed ballot bag for 22 months.
And they're retained here in Pawlet?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Satisfied, Dolores? That answered your question?
Pardon me?
That answered your question?
Yes, she did.
Okay,
Thank you
good.
very much.
So, nothing else for Deb then? Okay, thank you very much, Deb.
You're welcome, thank you, and thanks for your question, Dolores.
Oh, you're welcome. Take care.
Town treasurer. Is
Julie,
Julie here to share her memo?
would you like to share your memo?
Nothing would give me greater joy in this life. I don't have a lot on my memo, just that 2 warrants, payroll was $8,012.47, accounts payable was $65,877.02. The breakdown of that is $41,058.17 for general fund, 13,549.74 for highway, wastewater 19,281.58. And these figures include, so in the wastewater expenditures, there's the fall payment on the USDA loan of $17,510, and also in the general fund is $15,000 for the voted appropriation of the wastewater funds. I have not done all of the appropriations because I normally wait until after my first collection is done, but we are going to need those funds to cover the portion of the wastewater portion of the USDA loan. So I went ahead and put that on this warrant. And then also, in other new and exciting news, the second direct to municipality ARPA deposit has been received for $71,763.46. So that's all I have other than the ARPA wastewater discussion.
And I have the info for that when we get to it. I'll move that we approve these warrants, 23011 and 23012.
I'll second that.
Any more discussion about the warrant? All in favor, John?
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Carried. All right, any other questions for Julie? Thank you very much, Julie. Emergency management?
Oh, yes. There is something. Bob Morlino submitted the Pawlet Emergency Management Director monthly report for August 2022. Jay Lupke attended the Survive Vermont presentation at the VSP Rutland Barracks on August 10th. This program is a community caretaking initiative created to educate and empower Vermonters with actions they can take to protect themselves and family members if they are confronted with an active shooter or violent threat situation. That's all.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you, Bob. Jennifer?
I have nothing to report as the town health officer. Do you want me to discuss the mask thing now?
Please.
Okay, so as I referred to before, that starting in August, the CDC loosened the restrictions, partly because we have achieved some level of herd immunity, but also because we have the availability of vaccines, booster shots, and antiviral medications that can reduce the risk of severe disease. So in terms of social distancing, the recommendations have gone from stay at least 6 feet away from other people to a recommendation that people may want to avoid crowded areas or maintain a distance from others in order to minimize their exposure to the virus. Of course, if you are immunosuppressed, for any reason, you're going to want to take additional precautions. In terms of masks, the current recommendations are that everyone aged 2 and older wear a well-fitting mask in public indoor spaces when the local COVID-19 community level is high. And as I said, in Vermont, based on the Vermont Board of Health's website, which they update every Wednesday, the level in Vermont is low, and it has been for quite a while. People who are at high risk should also wear a mask when their communities are at the medium level. I can tell you that I had to stop in the Danby town office the other day, and door was open, no masks, and I also volunteer at the food cupboard in Manchester, which is in the town government building, and there are no masks anywhere. So I think it's up to people to self-manage their risk. Certainly if you feel more comfortable wearing a mask, you should absolutely do so, but it's no longer a requirement as it's been in the past. Any questions?
No, I think that's a good report, and we can choose to go however we want from there. Does anybody have any opinions that they want to bring up at this point now? Okay. Thank you.
Should be up to individual, right?
Well, the town right now, the select board is in charge of setting the mask mandate, correct? So.
So it should be up, if you feel like you should wear one, you should wear one, right?
I would agree with that.
I also think that what was discussed one other time when we were all talking about this was that individual offices might be able to make different enforcements based on their comfort level. So if the treasurer's office or town clerk's office wishes to have specific parameters for inside their spaces, I think that that is fair, because I know that a big topic of conversation a couple of weeks ago was just about making sure everybody feels safe and comfortable. And I think it's important to remember too that if there's, just because there's no mandate doesn't mean that people can't wear them anymore. You know, if you want to wear one, you certainly can. But
I think it's important, like I said, for people to manage their own risk and wear a mask if they feel comfortable, more comfortable doing that. But, well, I'll leave it to you, to the board, to address what's best for the town office. But as far as the public at large, at least in the state of Vermont, masks are not a requirement, as I said. And there is, given that there's a low risk in Vermont, there's no real need for regulations for the public, but I will leave that all up to you.
That would be an emotion to.
I would make that motion to lift the mask mandate.
And if employees want to, their own private area.
In their office, it's just in the general assembly area.
Right.
They can put 2 or 3 on if they want. If somebody's very uncomfortable with it.
No, right, but if someone has, you know, their own office where people are coming into it, they could require that if anyone comes into their personal space, their office, they can ask them to wear a mask. Right.
and this is a standing agenda item. I'll remind everybody of that. So at the first meeting of every month, Jennifer has graciously agreed to continue to keep us all up to speed. So if things go completely haywire again, it's always an opportunity.
If I recall correctly, Jennifer was saying that, and I have looked at these maps also, there's like 3 colors now, right? There's green for low, and like yellow for medium, and red for high, for how much COVID there is in each county, right? And Vermont has been mostly green with little bits of yellow all out throughout the summer. Unfortunately, Rutland County seems to be yellow more often than other counties, and I really don't know why. But we haven't been red at all. But I mean, I suppose if we were to become red at some point in the winter, then, like she said, that there would be a recommendation that might change. So we would want to look at it again at that point. That's what I think. But yeah.
And the website, like I said, is updated every Wednesday at the Vermont Board of Health. So, anyone is free to check that.
So the motion that I gathered from that was the motion made to lift the municipal mask mandate in the General Assembly area, allowing for individual office spaces to make mask requirements as necessary.
All in favor? John?
Bob made the motion, you seconded it? Is that right?
I'm gonna vote.
I don't know.
If anybody said.
I don't know if it's been seconded.
I made the motion and then.
Rich and Bob were
I'll second it.
Okay.
Did you officially do that, or did I miss that?
I
He was
started to
starting
make
to
the
talk, but he wasn't
motion.
quick enough.
I wasn't making sense with my, what I wanted to accomplish.
Okay.
John, did you have something?
I voted no.
Okay.
Dylan voted no. Jessica?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Yeah. Carried. Motion carried. Okay, so now we're on to wastewater treatment. I haven't heard any activity there since we were dealing with the generator and stuff. I know that Gary's been there and done some stuff to it, and I believe it's back online. I haven't heard anything like that, and we're in the process of getting the alarm boards repaired. So I haven't heard anything plus or minus, so I guess it's all good.
Yeah, how about, there was another leak, or potential leak, right, that needed a camera to go up?
She's never gone in it with the camera. We kind of need to do high water. You know, we need to do it during a high water situation.
So it hasn't been bothering throughout the summer?
Right, right. I think it's only when the water up there in the spruce gum gets really high. I think it apparently is something either that we've corrected or something in that area is leaking again because it goes right through that very wet area. But one of the other things that we always got to consider too is almost every bit of that sewer is in a low blasted ledge, so it ended up being a trough, so any groundwater gets right in and it just holds it right in there around the sewer pipe because it was all blasted into the ledge. So it could be coming from anywhere and going right down the pipe, right down the crushed stone of the pipe. So, but we can tell when she gets an event with that she's seeing higher flows, she's going to bring her camera down and run the camera up and see if we can determine where we see the highest flow ratings and stuff.
It's the same way we found the leak before.
It's about that time that person we were working with about the grants had said that he would contact us in late August, so I think I'm just going to shoot him another email to remind him, because he said we should get together at some point in September and discuss the next funding cycle.
Okay.
I do have the information that Julie asked me to get about the ARPA funds. I called the Vermont League of Cities and Towns, and they said that yes, these funds can go into the proprietary fund for wastewater. There's no problem with that. So we can go ahead and we can reimburse for the repairs that were done in the last fiscal year using those funds. Does that answer the question, Julie?
Yes, partially. So I had given you a list of repairs, and I have it in my office, but I don't have it in front of me. Or I guess, are we gonna set a dollar amount, or are we gonna choose some repairs, or are we just gonna like the whole shebang?
I mean, off the top of my head, I was thinking the number that I had in the ballpark was somewhere around 20,000 of the repairs. I don't know what anybody else was thinking.
Yes, we'd have to look the list over of what repairs we've had that we feel.
Yeah, Julie, did that go to everybody or just to me, that list?
Just to you.
Is it somewhere that I can grab it? Easily?
Now, Jessica, can we just funnel a certain amount of money? Like, can we just commit 20K?
Yeah, that would be fine.
So then maybe that's the answer to like just commit, because the row, when that main broke, was it approximately 20? Right?
I think so, yeah.
Where's my town book?
Yeah, basically, the person I spoke to at VLCT said that we just need to keep good records of this reimbursement so that then next year when we have to do the report, that we can put that in as one of the line items, right? That this is what we used the ARPA funds for. And I told, yeah, and I told this person that that's what you and I had done in the past year, you know, for the report in April. You had given me the list, so that I think our record keeping is fine.
Okay, so I was thinking like some of like the pump repairs, we had several of those that were like a couple grand a piece, and then that big main break that was both Markowski and VTUM's, like pretty high bills. We could do those. It might be over 20K, but probably under 30.
I think that's the right direction, I feel, to go with that.
So are we thinking just do 20K or do that big break? However much that, which is between 20 and 30.
I think probably just go the 20K, and that will basically cover that big break, and we certainly have enough bills to more than cover the 20K, so we can satisfy our requirements with the ARPA funds.
Yeah, that.
So, and then it doesn't put us in a situation where we haven't had to pay for anything out of the, you know, we still know that there's some money got to come out of the sewer for the other stuff, so.
Yeah, we have, the other things we know we still need want to do with the ARPA funds are, we're using some of them for the sidewalk match, and we do want to save a large chunk of them to put as seed money toward the big wastewater project that we have to do. Yeah.
Okay. So we all pretty good on that then, or?
So that needs to be a motion?
Yes, please. I think my auditor's gonna want a motion.
Okay, I'll move that we appropriate 20,000 of our ARPA funds toward the wastewater proprietary fund to reimburse for repairs in the last fiscal year.
I'll second that.
Bob, second that. Any more discussion? All in favor, John?
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Carried.
Get the language on that?
Yeah, I have motion made to appropriate $20,000 of ARPA funds towards the wastewater proprietary fund to reimburse for wastewater repairs in the prior fiscal year.
That's exactly it.
Whew. She's still got it. Okay. Who seconded that? Bob, thank you.
Bob, that's good. Older unfinished business?
Oh, wait, facilities.
Oh, facilities report, yeah, I kinda jumped right over it, sorry.
I just wanted to bring up, I was gonna bring up, do we have that quote for the town hall repairs? And you had said you were gonna get that.
I'll reach back out to him again. and
Because
see.
we were talking about doing that grant for it, and I will write the grant, but I don't wanna write the grant until I know we have a quote, because it needs the quote. And if there's no quote, there's no grant. So, once you get that, you can even just directly contact me to let me know about it so I can get started.
Okay, yeah, I'll send him, and if he wants to come back, I'll give him, I'll let you know, so maybe you have an option where you can meet him here too.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy for me to get down here also.
Okay.
Yeah. Great. That's all I have for facilities.
Okay, that's pretty much for me too. Everything else is good. New business, Cannabis Control Commission. So, this is all brand new territory for us.
Yeah.
And we have an application that went to the state and now it comes back to us because the state has approved it. Can you give us a...
So the state has approved, I can just read you the email. So the Cannabis Control Board would like to inform you that S many zeros 297 mixed cultivator tier 1 small cultivator has been approved. This applicant's proposed cannabis establishment is within your municipality. Pursuant to state law, most cannabis establishment application materials are confidential. See 7 VSA subsection 901 H1A. The board is sharing some of the application information in this document to facilitate the Local Control Commission's licensing review. The board asks that you abide by state law and maintain the confidentiality of this information. The Local Control Commission may request further information about the proposed cannabis establishment directly from the applicant. For this license type, the applicant is asked the following questions which may be relevant to your review. Do you comply with required inspections or permits from other state and local agencies, for example, certificates of occupancy? The answer was yes. Is the physical site of operation on a municipal water supply? The answer is no. In order to issue this license, the Cannabis Control Board requires the approval of Pawlet's Local Control Commission. Please submit documentation of the Local Control Commission's decision via email. Please note that pursuant Rule 2.14D, decisions must be communicated to the board within 60 days of receipt of request for approval. If the decision is outstanding for over 60 days, the board will consider it a presumptive approval to grant and will move forward with the applicant as appropriate. Local Control Commission authority is defined at 7 VSA subsection 863. And the board has developed information for municipalities and local control commissions on its website. For a list of upcoming projects proposed in your municipality, click here. Thank you, the Cannabis Control Board.
The last time we looked up a little bit about what it was involved, it was pretty vague on what the state had us involved in.
Yeah, I think they're still working through getting this all rolling. I was contacted about a week ago by someone who is trying to help another town set up their cannabis control board, and they wanted to know what we'd done. And I said, well, we just voted to make the select board, do it just like they do the liquor control board. So I guess my question is, there was a possibility that at the local level, when we issue the local license, that we could have a small fee associated with that. Is this asking for the local license, or is this asking us to approve the state license? I'm a little unclear. Do you have a sense of that, Kristen?
It's the support and approval of the state.
Okay.
Is what I've gathered.
The state's already approved it,
The state's
though, right?
already approved it.
But they need us to sign off on it to say.
It's a little bit confusing because it's saying the state's already approved it, but it's saying in order to further approve it, wants the town to approve it, but if the town doesn't approve it, the state's still approving it, so.
I mean, I like that they loop it back to the town.
I think it seems, last week we got an email from the Cannabis Control Board wanting to confirm if there were, what names of villages and sub-villages were within our municipality. So I said Pawlet and West Pawlet. So they're definitely still trying to get a handle on the whole thing. Definitely. But from what my understanding is through that message, it's that it's been approved. And so this specific license, just to confirm, is for just growing. It's the tier 1, which is the smallest.
So that license is just to grow.
Just to grow.
No retail sales.
No retail sales, no production. It's just exclusively growing.
To grow a plant and then sell it.
Yes, and then within all of that, all of the state requirements are quite robust in terms of security and insurance and plans for selling and business plans and so on and so forth. It's quite involved from the state level. And from what I'd read when the town had established the local commission, pretty much the local commission always defaults back to the state regulations, but it just gives an opportunity for the municipality to just have more say and be able to ask questions. So I don't know, I wanted to, since this came in, I would imagine it's not going to be the only, and I was wondering if maybe this could be an opportunity for the select board to just try to think about what the process is going to be like when these come in do you want to have an opportunity to talk to who these applicants are and...
Do we need to get back to them this week on that, or do we have a little
I
bit of
think
a
we have,
window?
it says we have 60 days.
60 days.
So if we don't answer within 60 days, the Cannabis Control Board will just assume that it's been approved, and they're informing you that it's already been approved. So,
Unless we throw up a red flag and say,
right.
The day theme is of importance. It's kind of like, it's like the public commission.
Yeah.
That they say, yeah, you can complain, but we're still gonna do what we want anyway.
Yeah, and I would imagine too, like if somebody that's applying is super delinquent in their taxes, or if there's, you know, there's things like that that could impact.
How does it work with the Liquor Control Board? I know that we voted, each time that one comes to us, we vote whether to approve it or not. Are we signing off on a state, that is us signing off on a state approval, right? Yeah.
we're agreeing that we don't see a reason to resist to it. We didn't hear that they've been selling to minors. We didn't hear that they've
Right.
done illegal procedures.
And when we do that, do they pay us a fee, or does their fee go to the state?
It's small, I think it's like 10 bucks or something. It isn't very much, but they have to submit a,
I think it comes to the town.
Okay. Because I think the more we can model this after what we do with the Liquor Control Board, the better, because it's already established, right?
So you wanna hold on to this for a session until, in 2 weeks, then?
Yeah.
And we can gather a little bit more information maybe, and...
And you all got that email, and there's a link for what other local, there's model examples of what other local control
Yeah, I
commissions.
mean, we might want to just draft, we might just want to see if there's a little form that is like, because like with the Liquor Control Board, right, we signed a little form. It would be nice if there was something similar we could officially sign for this to make it, you know, official.
Okay.
And maybe if we put some criteria together that they need to meet, like if they're delinquent, you know, or, you know, maybe a couple things like that. It's a pretty good idea.
It just could be a way for the town to get a better,
Location.
just wrangle it a little bit better.
Even may have some effect on it.
I'll have a bit of a look through that website and see what those examples are.
It's like organized, I think it's kind of organized chaos.
Yeah, I think it is at this point too. I feel like next year they'll have it much more together.
You would think.
I'm glad that they jumped on doing something this year though, because, you know. Why not? Yeah, why not?
Okay, so anybody else have anything new business? How about public comment? We're all good? Executive session. Somebody want to make a motion to go into executive session?
Sure. I'll move that we go into executive session to discuss labor relations agreements with employees.
I'll second that.
Second it. All in favor? John?
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
Bob? Good night, everyone. Thank you.
okay.